Welcome to a new video where we break down right versus wrong in real police encounters. In this episode, we examine critical issues like use of force, officer obstruction, and potential official misconduct. Officer David Lance Dukes from Orangeburg County arrived on scene and immediately escalated the situation, drawing his weapon and ordering 58-year-old disabled man Clarence Gaillard and his cousin, Mario Julian, to the ground. The two men were standing outside a townhouse in a parking lot when the encounter suddenly turned tense, setting the stage for a confrontation that raises serious legal and ethical questions.
Hey, let me see your hands. Bert, get on the ground. Get on the ground. Get on the ground right here. Get on the ground. You, burgundy shirt, get on the ground. Over here. On the ground. On the ground. Get on the ground. Do you not listen? Get on the ground.
Mr. Gaillard attempts to comply with Officer Duke's commands, lowering himself onto his hands and knees. Despite this clear effort to follow instructions, Officer Dukes escalates the situation, forcefully using his foot to drive Mr. Gaillard fully to the ground, causing his head to slam violently against the pavement. To understand the legality of this action, we turn to the landmark 1989 Supreme Court case Graham v. Connor, which established that any use of force by police must be objectively reasonable under the Fourth Amendment. The court outlined three critical factors for evaluating reasonableness: the severity of the alleged crime, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to officers or others, and whether the individual is actively resisting arrest or attempting to flee. Further guidance comes from the 2016 case, Armstrong v. Village of Pinehurst, where the Fourth Circuit clarified that while noncompliance may justify some level of force, the degree of force must align with the actual risk presented. Even passive resistance can warrant limited force, but only to the extent that the circumstances truly justify it. In this case, the alleged crime was minimal at best. Although Officer Dukes initially claimed he believed Mr. Gaillard might be armed, that concern had clearly diminished by the time force was used. Mr. Gaillard had already raised his empty hands and was visibly complying. There was no immediate threat, no attempt to flee, and no resistance. In fact, he was doing exactly what he was told. Given these facts, it is highly likely that a court would find Officer Duke's actions excessive, neither justified nor reasonable under the law.
Back there? By that truck.
No gun.
You're not listening, dude. Bro, you got a gun on you, man?
No, I ain't got no gun.
Right,
I
I'm
don't
just
own no gun. I don't
Turn
own
back over. Paul, do you watch him say? He had something.
I ain't own no gun.
The door's unlocked, it's not always so.
No, he was right here. Watch him. Go watch him. There it is.
I don't own no gun.
All right, that's what he had. All right, who's the complainant? All right, get up, get him up.
Put your leg up.
25 cents, got one tank.
Alright. Put your leg that way so you
I'm
can stand up.
confused.
All right, listen, I'm about to help you. Hold on. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. All right.
Yep.
Listen.
Yep, they slammed my head
Listen.
down on the cement. Yep.
Go back inside. Go back in the house. Go back in the house. Ain't nobody talking to you.
I got head drummer.
Go back in the house.
Yep. Y'all bust my head down. Yeah, I've been in an accident. Yep. Y'all bust my head down. You threw me down.
I sure did. You
And,
wasn't listening.
yep. No, it ain't. You had to throw me down like that. I'm disability.
Okay.
I got head problem. Yep. You threw me down. Yep. You threw me down. You threw me down. Yep. You bust my head down on the cement. Yep, you bust my head.
All right, let me tell you what.
His forehead.
You bust my head down on the cement.
He was in front of the car when I came up. And he was walking like this. And I thought it was a gun at first. I said, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun. Had him at gunpoint. And he's over here doing something like this.
You slammed my head. You slammed my head.
What he was doing is
down
putting
in
this up behind the
cement.
tire. So he comes over right here. He got his hands in his pockets. I'm telling him, let me see your hands, let me see your hands, let me see your
Why you
hands.
bust my head then?
He wasn't listening.
No, it ain't.
He got the, like this right here,
You grabbed me.
and we went onto the ground.
Officer Dukes later claimed that as Mr. Gaillard emerged from behind a white vehicle, he believed he was holding a gun and repeatedly ordered him to drop it. He also alleged that once Mr. Gaillard stepped in front of the vehicle, he kept his hands in his pockets and ignored multiple commands to show them. But the body camera footage tells a very different story. It clearly shows Mr. Gaillard with his hands raised above his head, visible and empty, while Officer Dukes repeatedly shouted for him to get on the ground. There are no audible commands to drop a weapon or show his hands, likely because his hands were already in plain view throughout the encounter. Additional reports from officers on the scene further complicate Dukes' account. Corporal Brandy Smith noted that while Mr. Gaillard may have briefly had his hands in his pockets as he walked from the passenger side of the vehicle, he removed them upon reaching the front. Her report confirms that Officer Dukes was issuing loud commands to get on the ground, but makes no mention of any weapon or instructions to drop one. Equally concerning are the conflicting descriptions of how force was used. Officer Dukes' own account omits any clear explanation of the takedown method. Corporal Smith reported that Dukes placed his foot on the middle of Mr. Gaillard's back to push him down. However, Sergeant Raquel Patter's report presents a far more aggressive version, stating that Dukes jumped up and stomped on Mr. Gaillard's neck. While the exact point of contact, neck or upper back, remains unclear from the footage, one fact stands out. Officer Dukes' version of events does not align with the body camera evidence or the statements of his fellow officers. That inconsistency raises serious questions about credibility, accuracy, and accountability in this encounter.
On the cement. You bust my
Yeah,
forehead.
your head did hit the cement.
Right, because you bust me down on the cement.
Where's the complainant?
You bust my head down on the cement.
Right here?
You bust my head. You bust my head.
Where's the complainant?
Bust my head down.
We're trying to get the name of the complainant.
You
So
bust my head.
What are we doing? Guess Sam was going to check him out.
Ain't nobody
There ain't
here.
nothing about here wanting to press charges on.
Who called?
I'm not sure.
Take him out of cuffs right now. I mean, because that's what we
You're gonna
got.
have to use it force.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Slam my head down.
Dude, I didn't know what his
You
intention
use
was.
the force. You need to look at the camera.
Alright. The officer did wrong. Slam my head down. Bust my forehead. Damn right. You gonna pay me for that shit.
Mayor, I'm going to take that into evidence of what he had.
What?
Well, I mean, you know, that's the reasons I did what I did. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm coming from.
No gun or nothing.
Because when he was behind the truck, I couldn't see what he was doing. And I didn't know where
There ain't nothing there.
that went. If it was still in his pockets when he come around that car with his hands in his pockets.
These dogs officer.
Got it
No.
on camera.
Okay.
Yeah, a
All
dog
right, that's
stick.
fine.
A dog stick.
So he can come out of cuffs?
Yes. Take him out of handcuffs.
Yeah, he can come out. Oh, Lord.
You want me to check you out?
you mind looking? What's going on?
Officer slammed my forehead down in the cement.
Okay.
In the wrong for that.
Did you process this?
Yeah. Listen.
Can I get a card from you?
I don't have one there. We
Okay,
don't have.
what's your
They
badge?
don't give us cards.
Okay, what's your badge number?
1059.
Let me see if I can get my phone. Hold on.
Hold on. We have cards.
I get ready.
Okay.
Mr. Julian then asks Officer Dukes for a business card, an entirely reasonable request during a police encounter. Officer Dukes responds by claiming that his department does not issue cards. However, that statement is immediately contradicted by Sergeant Raquel Patter, who steps in, clarifies that cards are issued, and provides Mr. Julian with the requested information on the spot. If it were determined that Officer Dukes knowingly made a false statement to avoid accountability, his conduct could potentially fall under two common law offenses recognized in South Carolina: obstruction of justice and misconduct in office. In the 1997 case State v. Lisgray, the South Carolina Court of Appeals upheld convictions against a Camden police officer, explaining that obstruction of justice includes any act that interferes with or hinders the administration of justice, while misconduct in office occurs when a public official fails to faithfully perform duties required by law. In that case, the officer's actions were far more severe, failing to interview key witnesses, obtaining a false arrest warrant, and withholding evidence, all of which directly compromised a criminal investigation. By comparison, Officer Dukes' alleged misrepresentation about department-issued identification does not rise to that same level of misconduct. However, the legal definitions of both offenses are broad. If prosecutors believe the false statement was made intentionally to evade accountability, it could still form the basis of a charge. That said, it's important to understand the legal context. South Carolina law does not require officers to provide identification upon request. While many departments have internal policies encouraging officers to identify themselves, those policies do not always carry the force of criminal law. Even so, moments like this matter. Small inconsistencies and misleading statements, especially when captured on camera, can erode trust and raise larger questions about transparency and accountability in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Alright. Just call me.
Brandon, he can get his stuff off the car.
Dukes, will you say badge number?
1059.
After receiving treatment from EMS, Mr. Gaillard and Mr. Julian were allowed to leave the scene. Just 2 days later, Officer Dukes was terminated from the Orangeburg Department of Public Safety for violating departmental use of force policies that, notably, are not publicly available. On August 25, 2021, Dukes was formally charged with first-degree assault and battery, a serious offense that carries a potential sentence of up to 10 years in prison. As of the time of this episode, Mr. Gaillard is represented by legal counsel, though no civil action has yet been filed against Dukes or the department. From a conduct standpoint, this incident reflects a profound failure. The use of force against Mr. Gaillard appears entirely unjustified, compounded by inconsistencies in Officer Dukes' account and what can reasonably be interpreted as an attempt to avoid accountability. At no point did the situation present a clear or immediate threat that would warrant such a violent response. The evidence instead suggests an unnecessary escalation, one that raises serious concerns about judgment, restraint, and adherence to constitutional standards. In contrast, Sergeant Raquel Patter demonstrated professionalism and integrity throughout the encounter. She provided accurate information, remained composed under pressure, and ensured that Mr. Julian received the details needed to follow up on the incident. Her report appears to have played a key role in clarifying what occurred and reinforcing accountability, an outcome that depends heavily on officers willing to document events truthfully, even when it involves their colleagues. This case also highlights a broader issue within law enforcement culture: the difficulty officers may face when deciding whether to report misconduct. Too often, there is pressure, spoken or unspoken, to defend fellow officers rather than challenge questionable actions. That dynamic was briefly visible here, but ultimately countered by transparency and accurate reporting. As for Mr. Gaillard and Mr. Julian, their actions throughout the encounter were compliant and measured. Based on the available information, both individuals appear to have been placed in a situation shaped entirely by the officer's conduct, one experiencing physical force, the other navigating an attempt to obtain accountability. Notably, Mr. Julian took the initiative to request identifying information, a step that reflects awareness and a willingness to pursue proper channels. If there are other cases or legal topics you'd like explored in this series, feel free to share them. Thanks for watching.